In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your boot and bumper on your Mazda 3. It's located on your strut. Using a 21mm socket, we're going to take off our lug nuts. Make sure you hold on here. Make sure that wheel doesn't fall off on you. Using a 15mm socket, I'm going to take off our sway bar link nut. And I'm holding it on the back with a 16mm wrench so that the stud doesn't spin. I'm going to remove the bracket and disconnect our speed sensor by pressing in on the tab and pulling out on the connector. And you can set this off to the side. Just let it dangle for a sec. Now we're going to push our sway bar link out using a pry bar. Just don't damage the boot. I'm getting it behind the piece that you were holding onto with the wrench, not on the boot. As I pry that out, you may need to tap it too with a rubber mallet. Taking the pressure off the sway bar link with a pry bar, and I'm going to set that off to the side. I'm going to use some needle nose pliers and take out the spring clip holding the brake hose to the bracket. You can also use a pry bar, whatever works. Now we can take this out and set that off to the side as well. I'm going to use a 17mm socket and take out this pinch bolt. You can use a cold chisel to split this open to allow this strut to go up and down so you can get it out. Or they have tools that help split things. And you can use this, and then you just crank that down and it slowly opens it up. If your vehicle is rusty, you're going to want to put some penetrating oil in there. It'll help you free it up a little better. At this point, I recommend taking off your axle nut. That way when this goes up or down, you don't pull the axle out of the transmission. So I'm going to undo this nut ping here and take the nut off. So I'm just going to hold my axle with a pry bar and take off this axle nut. Now you're going to give this a little love tap, make sure it's free in there, so when this knuckle comes down, it doesn't pull it out. I have an exhaust clamp on my lower control arm so that I can pry down as I tap on the knuckle. Just make sure that your axle is not getting pulled out from the transmission. We're almost there. So now at this point, I'm going to go up top and I'm going to take off 2 nuts out of the 3. I'm going to loosen the 3rd one and just leave it there kind of hanging on a thread. Using a 14 millimeter socket, we're going to take out these bolts. I'm going to leave 1 just hanging on a thread though. Crack this one loose. Once you get that one loose, you're going to have to use a wrench because you're going to get all jammed up in there. I do recommend using a ratchet and a socket to crack it loose first though. Or you can use a swivel socket. I would take this one completely out. I'm going to take this one completely out as well. And then I'm going to take this one out like halfway out. Now we're just going to crack it loose. Now we're going to go below and take the strut out of the knuckle. All right, with our bolt up here somewhat undone but still in place, we're going to pry down with our exhaust clamp on our lower control arm and pull that away. You can let that go back up if you want. Make sure your axle is still okay in your transmission. Feels good. And now we're going to take that last bolt out up top. So I'm going to hold on to my strut and take out this bolt up top. And there we go. I like to make sure that I put my strut back together the right way and that everything's in the right place. So I mark it anywhere that looks a little different. So this has a curved area, this is more straight here. And I notice that this lines up with this and this bracket. When installing the mount on the strut, you want to make sure that you align things properly. There's a bearing here. So make sure that you align this mark with this mark, and then this follows all the way down. So now we're going to compress our spring. Make sure if you're doing this at home, you are using a machine like this. You just want to compress it till it's pretty loose. And that seems good to me. So when we loosen up this nut, we'll be able to take this apart. Now you're going to use a flathead screwdriver and you're going to pull down this boot and also the bushing. You're going to use some adjustable pliers and just pull that rubber thing down. Now we're going to get some locking pliers in here and hold this still while we take this nut off. I'm using an 18 millimeter socket. I'm going to take this nut off. We can remove our mount and set that to the side. Now you want to grab a hold of here as you let go of your locking pliers because it's going to fall to the ground otherwise. All right, now we're going to take this right out. Now we're going to slide our boot on. There we go. Push that down, and then we're going to take this nut off. and get ready to put our mount on after we feed it through the spring. So you're going to go back to your machine. Now we're going to put our strut up here, and we're going to get our spring ready to seat right. It should line up at the stop over here. And we're going to put our mount on, and you can start your nut. Once it's started, you can let go. Make sure this is lined up also. So if you have to loosen your nut a little to do that, you can. And just move that over. Now we're going to tighten this nut down, and then we'll torque it after. You're going to torque it to 40 foot-pounds. We can release our locking pliers now. Now we can put our bumper back using a pair of adjustable pliers. Now we're going to decompress the spring. All right, that should be good. And now we can install it in the vehicle. We're going to clean up this knuckle to put the strut in. Also, I'm supporting my knuckle with a bungee cord so I don't add strain to the axle or the knuckle. I'm going to put my strut in. I'm going to feed it up into the space above first and then rest it on the knuckle. When you're putting it in, make sure that your line that you made for the alignment purposes, this goes towards the passenger side. And this bolt is closest to you. We're going to feed our strut up. And as we're feeding it up, we're going to slot it in the knuckle, right about there. I have my bungee cord supporting my knuckle and my axle. Once you get things lined up, make sure this hook here goes where the pinch bolt is. You're going to be able to line up there. Once you have your strut in place below, or it's lined up at least, you're going to put a punch in here, and that's going to help line up all your bolts. So once I have my punch in there, you're going to try to get a bolt started. All right, I'm going to snug these up a tiny bit. ahead and snug these up. We'll torque those later. Now let's get our strut end on the bottom. Now that you've fastened your bolts up top, we're down below. I have a pole jack supporting my control arm, pushing the knuckle up into the strut. The strut's lined up in the back. Make sure the pinch bolt bracket is lined up with the knuckle, and we're going to slowly push the strut in. This is a good side to be on so you can see exactly where everything's going. If you're on the ground doing this, you would put a jack stand underneath. We have a hockey puck here to help hold it from slipping, and I also am using my exhaust clamp to keep the jack from slipping off the control arm because it's on an angle. So just be careful. Using a rubber mallet, push it through. I'm just going to stop my bolt. Okay, now that it goes through, we're going to snug it up and torque it. And torque this to 50 foot-pounds. Now we can lower our pull jack. And take off our exhaust clamp because we don't need that anymore. Let's put our sway bar link back in and our bracket for our speed sensor. Sometimes you have to move the sway bar itself in order to get your sway bar link lined up. Just use a pry bar when needed. Let's slide your bracket over, and you can start your sway bar link nut. Snug this up, and then we'll torque it to 35 foot-pounds using a 16 millimeter on the back end to hold it still. Torque this to 35 foot-pounds. Now we can plug in our speed sensor. Make sure you hear that click. Make sure it's fastened. And now let's attach our brake hose. Now slide it in. Feed your brake hose up into the bracket. Make sure the flat side is against over here. And now we're going to hold it in with our spring clip. Now we're going to put our axle nut in. Make sure it's in all the way. Everything moves. We're going to torque this to 200 foot-pounds. sure you peen your nut using a cold chisel and a sledgehammer. We're going to install our wheel now. I like to walk the wheel on. When you're tightening, make sure you go in a star-like pattern. We're going to torque our wheel to 85 foot-pounds in a star-like pattern. We're going to torque our top bolts to 25 foot-pounds. Pull alignment shop to get it aligned.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.